Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Donovan.
Here.
Alderman Jokers.
Here.
Alderman Eidman. Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Prince.
Here.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Very good. Move for approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Takes us down to our city administrator's report.
So you've got an updated report at your seats. Item 6, a member of the Garden Club has requested that we remove the locust tree adjacent and above the pergola at the corner of Main and Merchant. I'm not sure what that cost would be, but we'll look into that. This is the corner that we have bands playing at on occasion. And the roots have really built up into that yard. It's damaging the sidewalk, so probably has reached its end of life and usefulness there. The city will begin a search for a new tourism director in the near future. Jeff Wicks has submitted his resignation, did that early this morning, and those duties will be continued by me for the time being. And I will tell you that it's not going to be the best, but I'll do what I can with the time that I've got and the skills that I possess, which aren't very many.
So Happy, now that the new tourism website is up and running, are we still working with the contractor as we run into issues, so those can be passed on to them?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if that was now our responsibility or if we're still under contract until some more things get addressed.
They're willing to still work with us, and because I have not received instructions yet on how to get into and work on the website. So they're supposed to come up with a book for me to follow and start getting in there, and we can start making changes. And they're still willing to work with us as we perfect things. I mean, it's just, you're pulling a lot of the old stuff still back into the new one, and there are things that we need to work on.
Okay.
Some things we can change, some things we can't. So not everything that we've talked about or talked about at our
Sure.
tourism meetings can be done.
I understand. I just noticed extra events on the calendar that, like a fourth Friday art walk every Friday.
Yeah.
So things like that probably ought to be addressed.
And that's a new program that we just put on. It's an enhanced calendar, but it's just learning how to make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Back to our contract with our firm and stuff that's doing our website. I know there was a lot of concerns expressed at the last meeting. I mean, have we addressed those, or?
I think so. I think there's still things that need to be done and things that we will keep working on. Updating pictures, descriptions, getting different links in there for like the park service and the houses that they have. It's not perfect, but it is up and running, and I think it looks better than what the old one looked like.
So just in reference to that contract and how we're paying that contract, I mean, is there any incentives within our contract, or do we just pay them money when they ask for it, or how
No,
does?
the contract has been paid. We have to submit the request from the state by August 26th. So we are at the end of that window. So we will be submitting to the state all the information that they need, and that the website is up and running to look for our reimbursement. So we have $10,000 from the state that we're looking to get reimbursed.
Right, so we paid the contract in full.
Yep.
Up front.
Yep. We didn't pay it up front. When we got it live, and then we saw that they were making changes as we went along, I felt that it was the proper time for us to pay.
Okay, and you authorized that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Anything else for Happy? Well, with that, the interim tourism director, Happy Welch, will give us a tourism report.
And I'm back. So we have distributed, by the way, 7,500 rack cards in the last 5 months to our various locations along 44, 55, and 70. We still have 7,500 in stock, so we're still in good shape on what we have, but we will start redesigning and trying to come up with something that the Tourism Tax Commission, the Tourism Advisory Council like. Month-to-month numbers from Google, our phone calls are up 24%, profile views are up 35%, website visits were down 2%, people asking for directions are up 20%, and people checking our business profile are up 35%. So there is an interest out there in tourism in St. Genevieve. It continues. And we'll just keep marketing, getting the word out. We do have a problem with Google Ads right now because of the requests that they've made from us defining our responsibility and our association with the businesses and nonprofits and the Park Service. I have answered it as best I can at this point, and they have rejected it twice. I will work on it again when I get some time to concentrate again and put that information out there. I'm not sure what else what kind of information they're looking for, what kind of association they're looking for. We are a tourism agency, that's it. We advertise for the city. We're not advertising particular businesses, we're just advertising to get visitors in. So I don't think it falls within their parameters of what they think or what they have in the way they have established their policies for their advertisers. Yes.
I'm looking at the next bullet.
What would you
Your-
was hitting one of the highlights. I wasn't going to go through all of them.
Man, you really mail it in with this tourism report. How about a little bit more detail on this Facebook admin rights issue? Two things. That's nothing malicious, right?
No.
We're not experiencing any kind of okay.
No. This is a transition period.
And just a general question with our changeover in tourism, passwords and admin rights and all that stuff have been addressed from a security standpoint.
They will be.
Okay.
Once I get some time to do that, and once we have made our transitions, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
I've got a list in the office, so yep. Ready to get after it.
Happy, do we have anybody part-time or somebody we could hire part-time to help you out?
Not that I know of.
How about the guy sitting next to you, he's newly retired?
Oh.
Can't pay your wage for a year, but.
Would make it worth your while. No.
No, thank you.
It is a difficult position. We may talk about at the next work session if we want to do another tourism director or if we want to go with an advertising agency. I think there's a lot of interests that this person has to deal with. I'm not sure that we can keep the consistency because we've been through two people now. If you have an advertising agency, it's whoever they have to perform, but they can, their personnel can move through and we don't have to worry about it. They have to perform whatever function we want. They have graphic designers on staff. They have connections with different, the different, television stations, print, media, whatever media, they've got those contacts. So instead of having to reestablish with a new person, that may be an option, but that makes it less personal. So that could be an issue.
And then there's no one to supervise the Welcome Center staff, or they would have to go under someone else.
We'd have to put them under somebody else, yeah.
We're only, down to 2 people there?
We're down to one, but we're, in the budget, we're gonna,
So we put money in there, but it depends on if this board wants to follow through with that. I mean, that has been discussed, that because of the transition to the Park Service. And yes, the Park Service does not push like a city employee will for, certain businesses, certain areas, or try to inquire deeply into what people want. Their mission is to promote the Park Service and their facilities, and then they will hand out information. We've got handouts that, for restaurants and the businesses that are open, for the wineries. It's all there in the downtown map they can hand out. But they may not be as deep into the knowledge of St. Genevieve either. And it's taken me 2.5 years to figure out how to get to the ferry. So,
not Hope Drive.
yeah.
Well, I would say if anyone's concerned about, or not concerned about us losing those part-time, or not rehiring those part-time employees, please watch the last 30 minutes of the Tourism Advisory and Tourism Tax Commission meeting. There were some very strong feelings in that room and a lot of information shared. So if you think we don't need those employees, please watch that and listen to your constituents that are involved.
Yeah, I think it's a fair.
So happy with our agreement with the national parks and that facility. Well, I guess it's still our facility and stuff. I mean, can we house somebody there?
They're allowing us, we've got a kiosk in there, so we have room for somebody to be in there. So it's
Well, I
not,
mean, but in the future.
oh, yeah. I think, that's again, part of the agreement that we would have to renegotiate with the Park Service, but they've always said that they don't, they'll make space for us in that facility. And at this point, it doesn't crowd it or anything. We're in a good spot. We can meet with people, talk to them, and we're not, we can have 2 different areas and we're not disturbing each other.
I mean, I'll agree with Susie. I did watch that. There was some very strong concerns, and I've heard some comments about it and stuff, but I think we definitely need to keep presence there and stuff. In fact, I mean, you know, do we need that person and a tourism director, or could we put a tourism director housed there?
That's what we did in the past, and I don't know if that worked, because they were so distracted from helping somebody up front, that I'm not sure that we were getting the most out of the tourism director. And I think at this point, we have moved out because Park Service wants to use the offices that we have in the back. So I don't think we can really house somebody there in an office setup, which if you're dealing with different media, you have to be able to be in a room where you can be on the phone and talk and not have a room full of people. At this point, we're just at a kiosk in the corner that you would be sitting at, and it wouldn't be a viable situation for conducting business.
I even had somebody, you know, bring up the point and stuff, we need to change the sign on the building from Welcome Center to National Parks or something, so it doesn't attract people there looking for.
So the sign up front says Welcome Center, National Park Service, and St. Genevieve.
Right.
So it's got both of us on there, so I mean, it's not.
Well, I think you want people going there. They're getting information there.
If
And
we're
if
gonna
you have information, you know, come out of there with a map of the city, you know, where everything's at. So, you know, they ought to be able to get that, which I believe they ought to be able to get that at any place they visit. Those maps should be everywhere in this town. Every business ought to have some of them.
So we're getting more made. We just made 1,000. We found some things we needed to correct, of course. But we're getting another 1,000 of them. We'll get them passed out so that other places can have them that request them. So we've got.
I don't see it. Some out at the community center.
I didn't get a request from Brad on that.
Well,
So
I think they should be out there. You know, everywhere.
So aside from that discussion, you probably need some input from us, I guess, on relative to budget, meaning you need to know, hey, do you need to budget? Do you need to solicit for pricing from an advertising firm, or do you need to budget for another director?
So I think with what we have in the budget, we would
Okay.
transition that to something
Okay.
else. So what our number is, our number stays.
Okay.
And then you would have salary plus the benefits that would then be able to be applied to something else.
Okay.
Or you know, to an agency. But I think that's a work session topic.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions? Well, Kenny's not here, but you saw his report. And with that, David?
Yes, good evening. You have a report there. Heritage Commission meets Monday. There's a little information there about the historic preservation grants there. I think I covered that in the previous meeting. If not, there's a little question on the survey grant that the Heritage Commission is going to have to work through. We'll be discussing it Monday night as part of the meeting. You can see under the building department there, Happy had worked with Gene to start doing safety inspections at the city buildings, kind of an outside set of eyes in each building, so he's completed 5 of those at this time. Down to the comprehensive plan, I just want to get it out there, but it was in the paper this week, I was grateful. We've reached the first stage of public outreach with the comprehensive plan, so those meetings are scheduled for Monday, August 29th at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, August 30th at 10 a.m.
What's that venue?
right here. Yeah.
Just wanted to be on record.
Yes, right here at City Hall, August 29th, 6 p.m., August 30th, 10 a.m. And that's the first stage of public input on an updated comprehensive plan. So just be kind of listening. The RPC will go over what they have so far and then ask for feedback. Planning and zoning, we met last week. You'll see that tonight for a subdivision for the property that we swapped with the parish. Under city county, this was written up last week, Friday, so the IDC meeting was this week, and I think that information is shared probably with building committee folks. And then under the BRO funds, the county chose to go with applying for low water bridge replacements there. So we will not be pursuing that with them on the North Main Street Bridge, which is down there at the corner of North Main, in front of the old mill. I'm not sure the back page made it to the packet, but there's just a few, very few things on the back. We had a variance application submitted, so we'll have a Board of Adjustment hearing on September 7th. That's about it. The nuisance code stuff we've been working on since May is on tonight's agenda. Anything else? Was it back there? Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any committee reports?
Nope.
No committee reports? Very good. Takes us to public comments.
Okay, first of all, I would like to start out by thanking the neighbors to back me up on this that are here tonight.
Excuse me, can you state your name, please? for the
Lori
record?
Figgy.
Thank you very
I
much.
think y'all know me by now. So, I would also like to ask who reports the information from the meetings? And the reason why I'm asking is because on the front page of last week's Herald, it stated Figgy complaining to the board about 2 properties. Okay. Bullet point 1 is the word complain means whining. I was not in here whining. Swear to God, I said I wasn't going to do this. I was here with a complaint about several properties, not just 2, several. The mobile home that I was referring to is not on 7th Street. As I stated, it is on the Casey Hall parking lot, not the J.C. Hall parking lot. That could really get people riled up if the information is not correct. And speaking of the person that stole from us, lives across the street from our rental, not next door. And we know for a fact that the people across the street have stolen from us. Not that we think, we know. I have noticed that some of the things have been cleaned up on some of the properties that I spoke about, which is great. Some. I'm sure the reason for a bit of the cleanup is due to me speaking at the City Hall at the meeting on July 28th and being on the front page of the Herald, not with all the correct information, but we can move on from that. The people I was speaking of either read it or watched it on the St. John channel, or maybe people that they knew went and spoke to them or reached out to them about the issue. This cleanup had nothing to do with any of the help from the city at all. And this really disappoints me that I have to do all the legwork, every step. I would also like to get a list of when these things were addressed in the past from me, and if any, or if there was any outcome at all. There are so many neighborhoods like this in St. John that are being neglected, and it's very, very sad. Not just to me, not just to them, everybody. Okay. Truly, where does the money go? Is it painting murals on the outside of City Hall to beautify? Is it paving the streets to beautify before Jour de Fête, when our streets have been in dire need for a long time? Is it to paint houses on Main Street that don't even belong to the city to make sure that the tourists don't snub their noses at St. Genevieve? And we know, in fact, that has happened. Is it to pave county roads? Look at those county roads, how beautiful they are. Our streets suck. They're a disgrace. They're awful. We as residents of St. John need answers. We're tired of waiting. We pay one of the highest local sales tax in the state of Missouri, 9.225%. This is out of 115 counties in Missouri. I find it so wrong that I need to come to some of these meetings or meet with city officials so often to talk about the same things over and over. Like this really shouldn't need to be talked about so often and then not to have the city backing me at all. At all. We are just concerned citizens trying to keep our small town cleaned up, and safe.
Any other public comments?
Jeff Giuliano. I'm a member of TTC, and also I'm director of the Center for French Colonial Life, Bolduc House, starting on 7 years this fall. But obviously a direct interest in and some experience with tourism. Wanted to follow up on some of the discussion related to now learning that Mr. Wicks is going to be replaced, and realizing that Happy has stepped into the position of fulfilling that role for a while. Couple of things that I would like to ask. One is that it's probably realistic to say it's going to take a while to find a replacement, correct? And there are some things that we probably need to address. People have brought up some of the issues at the Welcome Center and getting that to work better. In all seriousness, I think the Park Service folks are doing the best that they can, but they do have a specific mission and they have limitations. There is, I think one of the things that I will say that I think Mr. Wicks and before him Toby had correct was that a primary role of the tourism director, or possibly if that gets replaced by a contractor, it's getting people here. It's making people aware that St. John exists, that it's like no place else in the region, arguably in the country, and it is worth coming here to visit. Once we get people here, then how do we find them, get them to find their way around? Part of that comes down to cross-marketing between the events. I'd like to second very heartily Mayor Hassler's suggestion about a map that's going out to everybody, a good readable map that's oriented north, south, east, west. Yeah, we should all have that, and we should all be giving that out. We need to do more of what a lot of the sites have started doing over the last number of years of cross-marketing for each other and sharing information. Get them here, and then we'll help them find their way around. A map would be great. There is the start of a good space for the city to have a presence at the Welcome Center that is distinctive from the Park Service site, has a nice video thing, and a big map on the wall would be a help, and we wanted to offer FCA, Center for French Colonial Life. If you'd like some help in designing and paying for a big map of the city to put on the wall, we'd like to help with that. I see Paul writing that down. Thank you. There are also issues of concern with that I think do need to be taken care of sooner rather than later, like the video street signs, the big billboards that are spread out regionally. It's still not very clear to us how we get our events or different special things onto those. We'd been told, oh yeah, that can be done, but we never got clarification on what it costs, if there is a cost, how do we do that? It's kind of like the thing about there's that nice monitor down at the Welcome Center now, but it's just showing the same generic things, I think, because probably that's what you had, was my assumption. we need to figure out a system as soon as possible about how to get our sites, various things like North Main, the arts, the different things on that monitor so it's more meaningful. But we need to address these again sooner rather than later. And I would very respectfully ask that we try to work together to address some of these things, not wait to the next TTC meeting next quarter. And in that context, I also want to reiterate, I've had some conversations with Happy that some things that he's going to need help with before either a contractor or a new director comes on. I have suggested the idea of like getting a subgroup together to help with the website to get the content fixed. And from people that know what's going on, contractors who did it, I think they did the best they could, but they didn't have the same kind of knowledge that some of us would have. And proposed that to have, we will help you, Happy. And he did say that he thought that was a pretty good idea, but I want to put it out there that we are officially offering. There are a lot of people who would like to help you with this, because this is really important. It's a key part of the local economy. It is something that, well, I just looked at my numbers from last month, and like a lot of people, our numbers are down a little bit from last year. We were holding our own. I don't know if it was the heat or what, but numbers are down, and we need to keep them going the other direction. We'll help you with that. I will, and I want you to know that we're going to keep harassing you with offers of help, okay? And with that, again, I think a key point, tourism or a contractor is doing it, needs to work on getting people here. We really have something that's special. Yeah, we really have something that when you get it out there, people are impressed and thrilled by it. And when they get here, they're even more thrilled. And when they get here, all of us can help them find their way around and find the next place to go. You enjoyed this? We'll go over here, see the next part of the story. We can do that. We will do that. Just please let us do that, Happy, okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jeff. For any other public comments? Nobody else? Thank you very much. Get the closed session notes out. When we read the notes, we'll have a motion on the consent agenda.
Approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. There's no old business. Takes us to new business. Bill number 4500, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the city of St. Genevieve and the St. Genevieve Community Access Television Board, channel 990/991.
Move approval. Second.
All in
So-
favor?
I'm sorry, can I just make one comment?
Sure.
I did see something on the Exhibit A. Oh, sorry, I'm scrolling. I would just like to note that it's no longer the Landmarks Commission, it's the Heritage Commission. I was hoping we could just amend it to reflect the accurate name of that group. Page 3 of 3, item C, number 1.
Okay, so I have a motion with the amendment in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Takes us to the first reading of bill number 4501, an ordinance amending the City of St. Genevieve Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 405, zoning regulations, 205 animals, and 520 streets, sidewalks, and other public places as set forth below.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Very good. Takes us to the first reading of bill number 4502, an ordinance amending the City of St. Genevieve Municipal Code of Ordinance, Chapter 500, buildings and building regulations as set forth below.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Takes us to bill number 4503, an ordinance accepting and approving the subdivision of the 500 block of Progress Parkway.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion for a second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to the second reading of bill number 4503, an ordinance accepting and approving the subdivision of the 500 block of Progress Parkway.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Have a roll call, please.
Alderwoman Clegg-Harn. Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4503 now becomes ordinance 4421.
Thank you. Takes us to bill number 4504, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Bacon Commercial Design in an amount of $8,780 for the mechanical and electrical engineering services for the City Hall Council Chambers remodel project.
Paul, I've got a question about that. So there was no structural moving of walls?
No, I believe everything we have in here is freestanding. Because we didn't have any issues in the police department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve?
Oh, wait.
You have a comment?
No, I was jumping on the second.
Okay.
We're all good.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion
Make-
for a second reading. Sorry, Mike.
I'll sit quietly. We're good. If that was a motion for a second reading,
Yeah.
I'd like to second that motion.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Second reading of bill number 4504, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Bacon Commercial Design in an amount of $8,780 for the mechanical and electrical engineering services for the City Hall Council Chambers remodel project.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Alderwoman Armbruster. Yes. Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderwoman Clegg-Harn.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4504 now becomes ordinance 4422.
Thank you. Takes us to the first reading of bill number 4505, an ordinance amending the City of St. Genevieve Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 215, nuisances, as set forth below.
This one had some revisions, is that correct?
Yes.
From the original that was sent to us?
No, not from the
No,
original.
okay.
But if you have any questions about nuisances, our attorney is here to answer questions or relay any information that, because we talked about this at the last meeting and there were some questions about nuisances. And we wanted to make sure that we had time to address the board.
Yes, if you want to.
I only had a question about the importance of the word obnoxious, and I think you were asked that before.
Yeah, we edited out some of the more vague terms out of the ordinance. It was obnoxious, it was
Annoying.
annoying. Yeah, annoying was another one we removed. Just because, well, we're not going to proceed under, annoying. Obnoxious, I think, I'm trying to remember, because trying to remember if the final version had obnoxious.
It did have obnoxious, because
Yeah, so
we looked at that.
we discussed by email whether we're gonna delete the obnoxious. It's obviously a term of art, or maybe an opinion. It's, any of these nuisance ordinances are gonna have a certain vagueness to them, because it's not like a speeding limit where it's a number. So we deleted annoying because that's really way too subjective to a prosecutor to enforce. And so obnoxious is a little more specific, I guess, in the English language when you look at the definition. So we can certainly delete that. It doesn't, I don't have a preference one way or the other. It's gonna be hard to just enforce a nuisance ordinance just because something is deemed to be obnoxious. You know, we have to have some specifics to it.
But if we don't have that terminology in there, and, I mean, obnoxious would be what a reasonable person would consider obnoxious. If we don't have that word in there, and I'll pick on Mike, let's say Mike's my neighbor, and he's got, let's say, some flowers and stuff that I just don't like the smell of them. They're not obnoxious to a reasonable person, but under the ordinance, without that name, or without that word obnoxious in there, technically, he would be in violation of the ordinance because it's not an obnoxious smell. It's just one that I don't like, and it would be up to a judge or the reasonable third party to determine that. So
It's questionable whether just having something that's deemed to be obnoxious is gonna be enforceable. It's gonna be questionable because it's so vague. Obnoxious is different than noxious, which is poisonous or, you know, something along those lines as far as the smell is concerned. It's generally, you're gonna be enforcing these with regard to specific conditions of the property and health and safety. I mean, that's really what you're talking about. You have to have a specific condition, you have to have, you know, something that you can sink your teeth into as opposed to you just don't like it. And that's
That
the
word
problem.
stood out to me. I thought it made the whole narrative weaker. With the addition of that word, I think it makes it stronger if you take it out.
Well, whether you have it in or not, I mean, when you're going to be either prosecuting in a municipal court or you're filing a lawsuit, you are not going to be saying to the judge, we're pursuing this because it's obnoxious. I mean, just as a practical matter, it's not limited, it doesn't have to be that and obnoxious, it's ors. So it doesn't have to be inclusive of all those things. It's either one or the other or a combination of all of them. So that's why I don't really care if you keep it in. I want an annoying out for sure because I don't want anybody to think that if they're annoyed by something, then they can complain to the city and somehow we can do something about an annoyance as opposed to something that is different. But it's up to you. You know, it's a discretionary decision on how you want to address that.
So who is the person that determines each and all of these?
Well, it depends on the procedure. So you have three main avenues to enforce these nuisance ordinances. The most cost-effective and usually the most effective is through the municipal court prosecutions, and there's through a subject property that is now on the second violation, which has a court date later this month after a guilty plea and a fine on the first one. So the city is doing that process. And the second avenue, if it's a health hazard or a more serious matter, you provide notice and you have a hearing in front of the Board of Aldermen, and then we order an abatement of the nuisance. And if they don't, then we enter on and we abate the nuisance, and then we add as a special tax bill under their property. The third avenue would be a separate freestanding lawsuit where we sue the owner and the occupant of the property, alleging a nuisance and a violation of the code, and we serve them with the summons, and then they have to file an answer or there's a default, and if there's an answer, then we have a trial whether there's a nuisance or not, and then we can get a judgment to remove the offending nuisance, and if they don't do that, then we set up for a hearing for contempt because they've been ordered to remove it. That last option is is most expensive and very rare for cities to do. You see it where it's a really horrible situation, you just have to get a circuit court involved in a lawsuit. Most of these are generally resolved by code enforcement contacting. I mean, Mr. Vogel has given you updates over the years about all the people he's contacted and resolved and not resolved, and so that resolves most of them. The other prosecutions, each day, so there's a nuisance present, you can give them another citation. You don't necessarily want to do that, because you want to give them the notice and then give them a day in court, and you hope the judge is going to, if they're guilty, that there'll be a significant penalty, and so then they'll dissuade them from doing it again. And if they do it again, maybe the judge will take into account that they've been convicted of it once before, and maybe there'll be a more significant penalty. Having said that, municipal prosecutions are limited to what you can do as far as a range of punishment and all that, and judges view that as one of the lower end violations. These are judges that presiding over murder cases and sexual assaults and burglaries, and so when a nuisance thing comes up, that's taken into the context of the importance of it. So that's really the avenue. There's three main paths: municipal prosecution, abatement hearing in front of the board after proper notice. It's a specific ordinance that we have and a procedure set up, or a lawsuit, and go through those three. I just remembered before the meeting that I had given you a presentation, the board at the time, a presentation in 2019, because we were dealing with, in part, the county collector and the tax levies and that water under the bridge, but I emailed that again it's a PowerPoint presentation. I have hard copies too, which cite the statutes. If you want those, I can give those to you. It covers the vast majority of the outline of the process of these things, and that would be helpful, so if you want that. But, really, it's from a city's perspective, and then, of course, there's a private cause of action, too. So if you're a neighbor, and your neighbor has a nuisance, you could sue them, so that it's not like they're powerless to act on their own. Now, we don't want to be in a situation where we're just sitting in our hands, and if there's a problem property, the neighbors are forced to take action, but there is that opportunity, too. And then they can get monetary damages, which is in a civil lawsuit that the city's not really going to have available to the city. We're going to be able to get costs back with regard to abatement of a nuisance, but we can't get compensated for the damage to the value of our property or whatever the nuisance has done. If it's trash coming on the property or water runoff or whatever, there's a nuisance cause of action that they can pursue separately if they wanted to, but that's pretty rare outside of a commercial setting, just because the money has to justify the expense of the litigation. Does that answer the questions?
Yeah. Thoroughly, yeah.
The next court date on the gentleman that I was aware of, and I'm not the prosecutor, so I'm not handling those, but he's got a court date on the second violation on August 24th at 11 a.m. in front of Judge Inman. That's a public, court proceeding, so anybody can show up and attend. Now, you're not going to be able to say anything if you're not a party. If you're not the prosecutor, you're not the defendant, you can come in and say, and watch it. But it's just not like any of the alder persons or myself even can go in there and say their piece, because we're not really a party to it. The city's represented by the prosecutor. The members of the public can certainly show up if they're interested in that case. The same person got a $25 fine by the judge for the first violation. It's a little low, but it usually starts out with fines. You're generally not going to be putting people in jail for a nuisance violation first offense. That's really not, unless it's something that has caused an injury. And that's really rare.
So Mark, you did say that technically we could have a citation written for every day it's in violation. Now, considering that our officers generally write tickets for about 60 days out for their court date. So we're writing a ticket, 60 days later they have their first court appearance, which could very well get continued another 30 to 60 days if that person asks. So by now, people are dealing with 90 days of whatever the nuisance is if we have not written another citation.
Right, right.
Can you make any kind of a recommendation on how often we address that?
I mean, that's gonna be really a question for, city administrator and your prosecutor. Because in the cities that I am a prosecutor, I'm not gonna sign a ticket for every day.
Sure.
It really, if it's serious enough, we're getting multiple citation requests, there's no point in having that stay in the municipal court level. You might as well, if it's that serious, you might as well set up an abatement hearing in front of the board and spend the time and money notifying them, having the hearing, ordering them to abate it. If they don't do it, the city should be willing, if it's that bad, that you're going to be writing numerous citations. I have not been by this property in a while, that was discussed earlier, but, you're not going to want to do that. You can't do it for, you have to know, I mean, if we looked at these nuisance ordinances, this is not about attractiveness. This is generally talking about safety issues. That's really what's going to be the linchpin of those abatement issues, is a health issue. It's not going to be a cosmetics abatement of an ugly siding or something. It's going to have to be really, when I'm advising cities, I want them to have evidence of vermin, or of trash, debris, derelict vehicles, you have the building, unsafe building structures, that type of thing. That's really what the purpose of that abatement procedure is. You can use it for other things, but that's again up to the administration and the board what they want to do, and then I just help you through the process. But if it's something that's ugly, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I'm not intimately familiar with this particular case, but his next court date's in August, and usually, my other cities where we have problem property owners, I don't know, I can speak to this one, but you're usually talking about somebody that's either a difficult person or going through a difficult time. And that's usually the rule of thumb. And after a couple court dates, it's usually like, I'm tired of dealing with this, what do I got to do? And if there's been movement, you want to encourage the movement, and so they don't just say, throw up their hands, and then it makes it even that much worse. But also, you have to make sure that you're going after both the tenant and property owner, if that's the case. You don't want to just go after a tenant. The property owner can be on the hook for what the tenant's doing. And that's usually where you get most of the action, if there's two people involved, two parties involved. You cite both of them. And that usually gets more work, because then at least the landlord has a motivation to get the tenant out, because they don't want to have to go to court because they've got somebody that's creating a nuisance for the neighbors.
Has it been our procedure?
I don't know.
Both landlord and tenant being cited?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, when the letters go out, the owner is CC, if that's the question.
Well, then the other question is, are they also cited? Are both parties cited?
Last time this party was cited, the owner was not, but we are under another notice of violation currently again, and both received that notice.
Okay.
So do we have the authority to cite both?
Yes, it's an ordinance.
I've got a comment and a question and stuff. As one, the comment being, I would hope this city would never tell a tax-paying resident of this city and stuff, you have to pay for your own civil case in this thing. I think that's what cities are supposed to do, is protect their citizens. My question with that being is, are we one and done? This is it?
When you say one and done, is this our update? Like the only update we're doing? Or?
Yes.
So we're going to look at, in the next budget cycle, to look closer at our ordinances, and this could be looked at closer and compared with other communities and try to strengthen it. But we went out and we also received from board members other ordinances, and that's incorporating what we were told, this works really great, this is wonderful. So that's been incorporated in there as far as our attorney believes that it is enforceable inside city limits.
I'm not aware of something we're missing that would be enforceable as a nuisance violation. It's pretty broad.
Yeah.
I mean, but if there's something else, we'd certainly take a look at it. I'm not aware of us missing something that.
Right, and we are regulated by state statutes, so we can't go past what the state statutes allow us to do. And this is in line with that.
Any other questions?
I've asked Happy, I just sent that to him again this afternoon, so I'm sure he'll forward it to the board, so you have a kind of a refresher of what I did last time. That's the statutes cited, so you can look at them if you want, and it goes through. It's more focused on the tax bill issue, because that was one of the main issues at the time, so there's a bunch in there.
But we still haven't really come to what we would like as far as abatements and tax bills. That is something that the county's still not.
Well, the county's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And after we had that discussion, we actually entered a different agreement with the county collector, and we agreed they were not going to do it.
Right.
There was some issue as to whether they had to. There was a disagreement as to whether the county collector had to. We can certainly move forward with collecting on the special tax bills, but you have to instruct me to do it, and it's by perfecting it by a lawsuit, perfecting the lien, and then it's essentially an execution and a sheriff's sale of the property. And all you gotta do is tell me to do it.
David?
Just want to let the council know, over the past 3 years, we've issued probably 8 special tax bills and collected 6 of them. So 2 of them continue to sit out there, though.
Thank you.
What were those tax bills for?
Are you talking about an amount or a punishment or the infraction?
I mean, was that tax bill for expenses we incurred, or?
Sure.
For abatement.
Yes, it was whatever we incurred for the abatement we performed plus administrative fees. Or, what we incurred here in the office.
So we didn't have to file any suits, they just paid them?
Correct. We have to record them with the recorder of deeds, which attaches it to the deed, so they have to pay that, or that travels with the deed.
And the other 2 just refused to pay them or didn't bother?
The 2 have not paid.
Usually get them when they need to refinance or they're gonna sell the real estate. So they can't close on it because they can't get a free title because there's a lien on it. So that's most frequently when it gets paid, unless the collector was gonna take action.
Is there an exception to that also, Mark, in the event of a tax sale?
Yeah, we get wiped out on tax sale.
That's it. There's ways around it. I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here, I'm just not sure to cover
David?
all of it.
I just want to add to what Happy mentioned. Some of the suggestions from board members came to me back in April. We looked over them. If you remember, we had a work session. We went through 5 other municipalities' nuisance ordinances. 5. And incorporated what you all agreed to into the update. So those are the additions that were made, that were sent to Mr. Bishop, and I don't think he cut any of them besides maybe some words.
Yeah. Some of the language, I didn't cut any actual separate nuisances that we included in activities.
And this is just a start. I mean, if we find anything that we did miss, we can always add to it, so.
That was my point.
Oh, absolutely.
Prioritize it later in some way, yeah. So, is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I'd move to approve bill number 4505.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Second reading on that? Is there one?
No, there's none, just first reading. I'll need approval of a low bid of County Home Center for water plant electrical building materials.
Move approval.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Abstain.
One abstain.
One abstain.
Is there any other business? If there's no other business, we will call this meeting adjourned and move right on into our work session.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's all yours, Happy.
So you have in front of you in little folders is a ton of budget information. So this is stuff you don't have to look at immediately, but it's to kind of help you with next week's meeting. Don't forget, 6 o'clock next Thursday, we go through the capital items. I have given you copies for both a 8% raise, 4%, 4%, or a dollar raise, 50 cent, 50 cent. What I need from the board tonight is to make a decision as to what you want to do as far as an employee raise so that we can produce a full budget by next Thursday. We can still, this is all preliminary. This is the second version of what I've been through to balance what we have. And for both 8% and for $1, we are at the 50% mark or above. If there is anything else that you want out of those budgets, then we would have the potential, obviously with the 8% raise, it would be over that 50%. But for the 4%, I'm sorry, with the 54% at this point, for the $1 raise, we're probably at about 100,000 that we would, anything beyond that would probably be too much. So to get to this, I have already taken out a couple of capital items, one being we're looking at another siren to put down on Highway M down at where the water tower is, because we don't have coverage based on what the graphs show for the storm sirens. So that's about $55,000. We can do that eventually, and then and we hope to find a grant for that, but I haven't seen anything available. The other thing we did was we moved the extraction tools for the fire department, moved it to rural fire, so we weren't pulling it out of general fund. So by getting those two items out, manipulating the numbers a little bit, adding some back into park, pulling some out of other areas, I was able to get it above the 50%. But it's still up to the board whether you want to approve all of the capital items as submitted, put something else in there, send that money to some other department, it could be street, it could be water. That's the decisions that we would do next Thursday. But at this point, so that I can produce a overall plan to give you, if I have no salaries, that's 90% of what we need to, I shouldn't say 90%, that's a little too high, but that's 50% of our budget at least. So we need to know what those numbers are so we can get those into so I can give you the right budgets when we bring them in, because we'll have a full packet to give you for those that want it. Otherwise, we'll just have the spreadsheets.
But Happy, you also cut the $20,000 for part-time welcome center employee. That is
Yes.
removed from this.
Yes.
Which I am going on record as being adamantly opposed to. I think we need to add that back in.
So that is not the part-timers.
It says part-time employee
It was a
personnel.
part-time employee to assist Jeff. So that's different than the part-timers.
Okay.
Part-timers are left from this year's budget and just moved into next year, so we kept
So we're
those.
not eliminating anything?
No.
This was a possible addition?
This is yes. This is somebody to,
Is that something Jeff was advocating for?
Jeff was asking
Okay,
for
thank
that,
you.
saying that he wanted somebody to help him with certain aspects and try to, somebody has is going for a marketing degree, this would be a entry-level type position.
Okay, so we still have the part-time staff. That was something 2 weeks ago. It was still included.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Because if you look at the total of what we have for salary for that department,
That has not changed.
yeah, it is over what one person would make.
I'm just struggling here because it's make a decision before we have this presentation. And I know you need some guidance, but it's really hard to make that decision with the personnel before we hear
From the capital?
presentation.
That's fine. We can put it together afterwards.
So Happy in, not, I mean, this is a possibility, but let's say within the next budget year, our income substantially drops. What is our outs then?
I don't know, what do we do in 2020? We've been through that issue, and we survived.
We didn't do any paving,
We held off on our capital expenses.
right?
So that's what the 50% is set up for in the general fund, is that pretty much pulls out any capital. It's been subtracted out, and that is just to survive with office supplies, electric, gas, all the utilities, and paying your personnel. So it can happen.
Well, with all the doom and gloom you're hearing by the media, the recession and, all of this, I don't know how we can't think about all those things and talk about them. I mean, because it could happen and,
Yes, and included in the packet is a look at what our budget is, and I take the general fund and sales taxes because they're pretty consistent up and down as to what's going on with the economy. So you can see in there what would happen if we had a fall for the next 3 years of 1%, say, because usually it doesn't fall much more than that. But you can see what we've had in the way of sales taxes. You can see what we've had in the way of general fund amounts over the years and the highs and lows. And then, help you to kind of predict what that number could go down or if that number could go up. So if you look at over the last few years, I think we had on average an increase of 2.37%. And so I figured that, and you can see where it came out as an average and then how it would increase. Because we had one really good year. I believe that was last year. So we didn't budget for that, but that amount did come in. So it could be the same thing this year. So far, we've had very good sales tax reports for the last 2 or 3 months that are above what we budgeted and above what we got last year. So we're looking at a pretty good trend.
but you admit there's the possibility.
Oh, yes.
Distinct possibility.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and just, you know, just in talking about that, doing away with our paving, then here we are kicking the can down the road with Cochran here tonight and stuff of wanting, gone there, maybe it's looking at worst case scenario, but you have to think about it, seriously. You know, times are just way different than what they have been.
Well, we could get into a whole different type of budgeting that I don't have the background on, but that would be performance management, or performance type budgeting. Or you're looking at what you want to put that money into, and it's a whole different aspect of what are the important things that we want to do, and then putting that money into it. But I don't have the background for it.
Right.
I'm not advocating, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. And we'd have to have experts come in and teach me and the board how to do something along those lines.
I agree with Susie, this is tough.
Yeah, it is.
Happy, under fire, on your proposed capital items, it
Yeah.
says IT upgrade, see below.
Yeah, so that's in our ARPA money, it's cybersecurity and the capital projects. So you see 28,000, a portion of that's going to go into the fire department. That's kind of the finishing of our cybersecurity installs around the city buildings.
Okay, so that's where that
That's where that comes from.
upgrade would come from,
Yeah.
capital projects.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a question for Eric. This $10,000 for these license read cameras, what are that? I mean,
The sheriff's department has a few of them up, so it is a system that monitors, it's a camera, so you will see cars coming and going. It's really directional, but it is hooked into the mule system where it will run the plates. So should somebody have a warrant, the car is stolen, the license plates are stolen, it would record that and notify you through your phone and let you know that, you know, somebody, you know, a dangerous felon has come into the city or a car, you know, that is reported stolen is coming into the city.
those are permanently mounted,
They can be, yes.
right?
Yeah.
But that's not
So we
the
would-
cameras, like, it's been up in the city of St. Louis where they write tickets and stuff off.
No, it's not like the traffic cameras. No,
Okay.
it's only to monitor. So working with the sheriff's department, I'm trying to map out the city and every exit, you know, should somebody steal a car and leave, we would know where they went at the time and everything like that. Or should somebody come into the city that may have warrants that's trying to dodge the main thoroughfares, you know, we're working with them to kind of just know what's moving in the county.
Did you say the county has those already?
Yeah, they have 3, and I think they're putting in for more.
And they've had,
They've had a lot of success with them, and I think there's hope of, like some of the lake developments that are out in the county, they're putting them at the entrances, and they can all tie in together, so should somebody that you're looking for leave that lake development, you know, just kind of keep an eye on anything that's tied to that hot file through mules on that plate.
right.
Eric, was Lexipol was something you asked for last year, is that correct?
Yes,
And it was not approved?
correct.
Okay. Do you have any additional information on that, or, I guess I'll wait till next week if you want, but
Yeah,
I'm
and this
just
was
curious.
something that we had talked about in our 10-year plan, or maybe, as far as the policy management, so no real new information on that.
Okay.
And what are the rifle plates?
It would be a bulletproof vest plate that would go on our bulletproof vest that would be rated for a rifle round as opposed to a pistol round. But we're looking at some grant funding for that through our risk management company that we have. So there's a possibility some of that would come out of grant funding.
How much weight are we gonna hang on you guys?
How much is too much to stop a rifle round? I guess a tank. We don't want to be dragging around a tank with us, but
Right.
unless you guys will approve that.
With that Lexipol, at 8,400, is that like a subscription, like yearly, where we have that fee every year, so long as we want to continue with
Yes.
them? Okay.
Yeah,
And-
that's a subscription as well as the cameras. Cameras are a yearly subscription too. It's half of what the total cost is.
Okay, so every year we'd be 10,000
And
for the
actually,
budget, but we
5,000.
can't, oh, 5,000. What was that?
I was gonna, after you said.
Well, I'm gonna jump over to community development now that we've given Eric the whole 9 yards and stuff, but this code update software, 30,000, what,
So we've looked into sort of tracking. Right now, what we have is kind of very basic. So we have G-Works, and there are systems out there where, first of all, there's a portal so people can apply online for their building permit or their special use permit. And then we would take that information. It also wouldn't allow them to submit an incomplete application, which happens a lot. We would take that in, and then we'd be able to track it step by step. There are different programs, so that could be done with code enforcement, it could be done with permitting, it could be done with zoning. Happy and I have sat through 4 presentations now from different vendors. Three. And so we think that is a conservative amount to hopefully pursue one of those.
so what is the reoccurring charge on that?
It depends on the vendor. The most recent one was going to be about $5,000 a year.
And so you've got a combination, on that line there's a combination, so we're looking at code update, which could be the zoning districts, the nuisance code, whatever we want to do in the code itself, and then the other half, the 15,000 would be for the software. So they're 2 separate items and 2 separate groups, I just combined them.
Would that be like a vendor like Civic Plus or something like that? Is that?
It is kind of like that, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just understanding, trying to
Yeah.
understand how it works.
Did we have anyone take advantage of the sidewalk reimbursement yet? Is it possible for the city to use some of that funds for some of the sidewalks we need to improve?
Yes.
Could we look into that before the budget year's over?
I don't know if we'll have time.
That's really a shame.
Yeah, so it'll be put back in there, and we'll see if we get any takers next year.
And then if we don't end up seeing some movement on sidewalks, are we gonna start enforcing our codes?
The board want us to?
I definitely think we need to
It's
work
in
on getting
ordinance.
safer sidewalks.
It's in ordinance, but past boards have not asked the city to be diligent in what we do.
It's a safety issue. I think we've made money available. We can at least start by writing some letters.
Yeah, and
I mean, we've written letters to let people know that we have the money available.
Right.
No, we have not.
But they've been targeted letters to people who need to do the improvements, who are in violation of our code. I think we need to start enforcing the code.
even at minimum, just making sure that grass clippings aren't on there and all that stuff, like that's something so small, but that's, the city's not coming out to clean that stuff up. That's an ordinance for them to take care of. I think everybody's waiting for the city to come and take over all the sidewalks, and I don't think anybody realizes the legalities and everything that has to go into that. And so, the way we get better sidewalks right now with our current ordinances and finances is to find ways to enforce what's already on record. So, I'm for it. I think I think we'd be justified in doing it now versus since other boards let it fall, because, I mean, we've turned over with Alliance, and, right, because the field operations supervisor position by ordinance is the one that is supposed to go through and make record of the sidewalks that are in violation. And my understanding is that wasn't done previously, and with Alliance taking over that position, I think this board is better positioned to begin enforcing that. Whether it's through you or David or what, or Steve, but I think we're better positioned now.
And I think when we did this, we did a survey ourselves just to see what sidewalks needed to have, or residences needed to have letters sent to them because of their sidewalks.
Yeah.
We've got a list.
And to be clear, the only city sidewalks there are the downtown exposed aggregate sidewalks and then anything in front of our own property, correct?
Right, and we do have sidewalks in front of our properties that need to be upgraded.
Before you send them letters out, fix those,
Yeah.
because that's what you're
Yeah.
gonna hear.
Exactly, and that's a
Take care of
conversation
our
I
own-
had with
yeah.
Alderman Johnson too, is maybe we, if nobody's taken advantage of our plan by beginning of the summer, if nobody's reached out to us, even one application by the end of spring when it starts warming up and people are considering house projects, we can't wait till August to decide we want to do that, so we have to
But they
look
will
at
take
it at the beginning
advantage of it
summer.
if you enforce the code.
Yeah.
You enforce it, they'll have to take advantage. They'd be silly not to, they're gonna get some pay for it.
Yeah,
So,
and if,
it's an enforcement issue,
and if
that's,
nobody moves on it by the end of
Yeah.
spring, then city needs to maybe take that money and allocate it towards a few areas that we need to fix, so.
But I don't think,
Either way.
I don't think people are gonna take advantage of it until we start
Yeah,
taking more action rather than just a letter saying, here it is, hint, hint.
so,
So here it is, and you're in violation.
Right.
I guess we get our plan together for how we fix ours simultaneously. So,
Oh, yeah.
but it's just gonna get worse.
we're
if
getting
not
back on,
fixing.
we need to get back on task with our work session. We're gotten off, I mean,
Sidewalk reimbursement, we're on task.
Right.
It just went longer than you liked.
no.
Happy, go through your legislative brief.
Legislative tree, what are we looking at?
Right, you're proposing to,
For the capital items.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
you have 3 line items under legislative.
Oh.
That's you.
When you said legislative tree, I'm like, what? Okay.
I don't know why it's legislative.
I'm sorry. Because I'm thinking of admin in my head. So the 3 items are the remaining $325,000 that we're going to transfer from the PIVA building sale. We're recommending, actually I think it's $225,000. We have another $100,000 that we were going to move over to the capital projects fund. The roof check, we're going to redo this building. We need to get the roof looked at. It's been 10 years, I think, since we did the roof. And then the Port Authority and the ferry has asked for $2,500. It seems like the board was supportive of the ferry. They've asked for money from us, from the county. The state is kicking in extra money. So I put it in the budget and then I pulled out the siren. Are you not in favor of, well, I mean, and then again, and we're not, this is next week's discussion. But if you're not in favor of that, then we strike it. But we don't have to decide on that tonight.
I don't know why we have to pay $5,000 to have somebody check the roof.
But I'm estimating what it might cost, especially if it has to be repaired. 'Cause
Well,
we have
that's
a leak
right.
up here.
Right, I mean, when we talked about the first renovation back here, there was an inspection by the contractor at that time. And said it was okay.
That was on that back roof, on the shed that overhangs.
Okay.
That was that. And we've had Meyer shaking in here on a couple of small leaks that we've had occur, and they've gotten those patched up without any issues, but I just don't want to, I don't want to short myself in case I need to use, have some funds available.
I just misinterpreted by roof check. You're not gonna pay anybody to check it, you're gonna pay somebody to fix it.
Fix it, yeah.
Right. And I don't know about the ferry thing. I mean, I know when Ron was here, he talked about it and he asked for it, but I don't know that we,
Well, that's why it's in here. This is one of those requests that was made, and, I mean, we promote the ferry, it's on our website, on Visit St. John, we talk about it, so it's, it seems like it's an important feature that we recognize in the city, so.
but it's not ours and it's not on our property.
Correct.
Happy on your big spreadsheet, you have safety merit increase to $100 per employee.
Yes. So we have been doing $35. We are now doing education online. It's online education, so it's Well, you see a video and then you have to answer questions. So we're going to do this more often, so it can be business, it can be, or it's in administrative, police, something that works with those departments. And I feel that if we're going to increase our requests for that type of requirements, that we also should reward employees for passing it. So it's all automated. We send out the information to the employees. They then have to watch it. They have to pass the test. It keeps track of who has seen the videos or hasn't seen them. If they don't pass it, then they're not going to get the merit increase.
And where is that coming out of? Is that in salaries for each
Salaries.
department?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is a separate line item that we have in our salary section for the merits.
In the book that we don't really look at?
Yes.
Okay. And that's an end of the year?
Christmas, right before Christmas. It's more of a calendar year. Yeah.
So they have the calendar year to complete everything?
Yes, and we've just started it, so
Sure,
yeah, we're kind of at that point, but yeah, and that's why I put it on there, so you'd be aware of it.
We're going back to the, we're having a meeting next Thursday over the whole budget, all this, so we're really, on our understanding, there's a lot of good questions, but just really for next week, the one, he wants to set a pay increase. That's what we need to get back to. What are we going to do?
We just do it next week, and
We could do it next week.
go through the complete
Everybody
budget
want to do that?
next Thursday.
I'd just like to throw out too that I know it's gonna be tight to try to fit it in, but I'd like to request that we try to fit in a salary study in this next budget year so that we can better approach the next budget. Because I feel like every year this topic of raises and where people are at, what's justifiable, what's within our means, we sit here and we go back and forth, and it takes us so long to make a decision. I feel like a salary study would really help us and future boards move forward on these discussions and future budgets more thoroughly. So if we can squeeze it in.
Happy, didn't we talk to you about that shortly after you came?
Now, because we've reduced our employees by 7 or so, but still do the complete survey to look at other jurisdictions and see what pay is in an area. I would say 30 to 35.
And then we could also, if we were to do that, we could also have them give us a number for if we were to bring Public Works back in-house, what that range would be for that position, so that if a future board is trying to negotiate that, we're making sure that we bring those employees in at a comparable wage.
And you can do
So-
water, all the public works, water, sewer,
Yeah.
streets.
Yeah, all those departments.
Parks.
So with having city employees under two different entities now, with Alliance and actual city employees, are we going to create any animosity if those aren't similar? If we give out bigger raises than Alliance, or Alliance gives out bigger raises than the city, I mean, are we going to create?
I don't know if we've created an issue in the past 10 years with Alliance doing the water sewer. It seems
Yeah, I
like,
don't know, I'm just asking.
It seems like it's worked fine.
I mean, you guys are entitled to do as you see fit.
Yeah.
Probably somewhat unprofessional to talk about that, I would think, but I don't know what your HR policy is, or can't stop it. I know it happens, but somebody should say it's not professional out loud, so I did that.
We're going to hold off on the pay. We're going to talk about that next Thursday then.
Well, can I ask one more question?
You go ahead, my friend.
What's the, so my eyes are bleeding here, but in your mind, what two numbers what would I subtract from what to get, what we're being asked to consider? I think we're talking about 35,000 some odd dollars in difference between a dollar raise, up to a dollar raise, or up to an 8%. What numbers are the best numbers to evaluate for that on these spreadsheets?
I think are you talking about the difference between
So,
the two?
yeah, I feel like I picked a random number that I'm not sure I picked the right number, but I picked revenue less ops from each sheet. Just to,
So,
I'm trying to quantify it for myself. What's the price difference here?
so overall, so I haven't done, if you look at the salary and benefits, look at the bottom line on both of those, that gives you the difference in amounts. So that also includes whatever goes into loggers, whatever goes into FICA. So that would be the difference in the pays.
But the reason why I didn't go directly there is because you've made some adjustments to make things fit.
Correct.
So each one is its own separate picture. And maybe I'm wrong about that.
I mean, you will see a difference between the salaries and benefits between the two groups because
Right.
one's going to be at $1, one's
Yep.
going to be at 8%.
Agree with you.
So there's your bottom line there. There's your financial difference between the two.
Are we looking at this as a cost of living adjustment of $1 or a cost of living adjustment of a percentage? Or is it gonna be, not everybody's gonna get the 8% or not everybody's gonna get the full dollar? It's gonna be merit-based or performance-based, or are we doing it across the board?
So as discussed earlier, we split it up. I've got it split up between, 4% and 4%, or 50 cents and 50 cents. And then it's up to the supervisors then in January to do performance reviews. Last year, everybody got a standard performance review and it came out with the full amount that we allocated for that. So everybody got, I think it was like 3%, 1% COLA and 2% merit. So everybody got the 3%. So it would be the same here, it'd be divided up between the two.
And any change to one scenario is consistent for both, right? Meaning if somebody wanted a capital item and we didn't add it so we could make something fit, that's consistent between both options?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, it is, because if it's listed there, it is figured into that total.
Okay.
So if I've missed something, which is not unheard of,
I don't suggest that at all.
no, but I mean, that's just, I've been through this a few times, and we've even gone back through the spreadsheets and found things that we've missed a number of times.
Is it at all feasible to do a percentage COLA and a flat rate performance?
However you want to divide it up, yeah. All right, so if anybody has any questions, you know where to find me. And that's why I wanted to hand it out tonight, so you have a chance to look at it. I know it's sure to fit weekends, so you may be busy with something else, but at least you have time to look at it, absorb it, and then we can go through it in more detail next Thursday.
6 next Thursday.
6-6, yep. We have the North 4th Street repayment, we got issues, Happy.
We have issues.
Well, I take it that's why Steve's here, because he's got issues. No? Yeah, not personally, I mean, just,
So we walked the site with Dean Bowman, looking at a couple of issues, which is ponding, because of the way the road now lays, trying to get to where there is some stormwater inlet areas. And of course, it's all wonky and needs to be repaired. The problem is we can't just mill out what we want to do, and then go back with the asphalt, or just mill down everything and make it work. If you want to fix the issue, because a couple of years ago, we did a street, it was 4th Street, we didn't fix the issue, it is now a super pond in front of somebody's house.
Couple of houses.
And they have let us know that they were not happy with the way that situation ended. So,
Where's it at?
2 doors down from you, is like,
Yeah,
what's your number?
41.
Yeah, so I think
It's in the next block.
54 or something.
Yeah,
Um,
that's on this side of the street.
Yeah.
It's 2 spots, one worse than the other. But back to that,
So instead of just doing what we have normally done, which is just pave over it, or mill down and pave, a little bit to try to get it to work, we can make some adjustments, but it's gonna cost money
How much?
because $36,000. We're getting into the sidewalks, we're getting into needing to mill down and then build back up. We've got one small retaining wall we have to pull out, it's just some railroad ties. we need to
railroad
get rid of
ties,
those.
yeah.
Recurb it. We do have a railroad tie retaining wall, but we can go down below that and build it back up. And then we've got curbs, but the biggest thing is the concrete that's on the east side that has, it's elevated, it's got a retaining wall behind it. That's probably the most expensive part of it. I don't have a total on that individual, but for the total price from Bowman to have that done is $36,659. It does fit within our purchasing ordinance that allows us to go with that because it's less than what the requirement is to rebid something along those lines. So if you want that project to move, to do that, I think they can do that pretty quickly. They've just now finished filling the cuts where they put the water line in and the taps. So we're getting close to where we can start doing pavement work on all the streets.
I'm in favor of fixing it right.
Yeah.
It's no sense in, we don't need the headache, the aggravation, and I know it costs money, but we need to do it right.
Yeah.
So we left money on the table. That was the question of what we decided to do. There may be 2 costs involved. One may be the asphalt cost because of the increase from last year's budget. But we left money available in case we needed to do something, and this will
Good.
fit within that budget.
That's good.
Yeah.
We need to fix it right.
Yep.
Because there's a gentleman that lives down there, you'll never hear the end.
We've already been in discussions with that gentleman. So we're good.
But I agree with him. It needs to be, and he had some great ideas, and I applaud him for that, and it needs to be fixed right.
Yeah.
So,
And this is the only spot we've seen this issue that we're worried about. So this should handle that.
well, what about on the other end of that, where that sidewalk goes down the hill and it's atrocious?
So there's a portion of that will be removed. We had to cut through that sidewalk. So
Okay.
we have to, I feel the city is responsible for replacing a section of sidewalk. I think
Yeah.
it's marked right now. That's to elevate it, to get a good driveway, keep
Yeah.
the water from going into that yard at that point.
Okay.
It'll be down further. Yep.
Okay, because it's a bad spot, that sidewalk.
And that was a
Big-
smaller area that I thought I could approve without any issue.
Yeah,
This
that's
is a
fine.
major improvement, so.
Okay.
And so there'd be sidewalk work within this area, can't remember, there's not a continuous sidewalk on that stretch.
Yeah, there is, all the way to the bridge, I think.
No.
That's just down the hill.
Down the
It
hill.
goes from
You're going-
Macomb down the hill, right?
Yeah, you're going down the hill, then it stops when you get to
But
it. It's a
you
vacant
get the
lot.
railroad ties there and all that, and then I don't think there's a continuous sidewalk.
Oh,
on
no,
there.
not on this side, but on the
On-
other side, going down towards the park down there, the little park, the skateboard park.
Yeah,
On the west side,
Yeah.
there is no sidewalk. On the east side, there is a sidewalk.
Right.
And it's thick. It's elevated, and the road is in itself is kind of wonky. So we're having to take out all of this and replace what's on the east side. On the west side, we have to dig down, build it back up so we get a good base. But we can get that elevation to start here and end here instead of doing this number.
yeah, with the existing sidewalks, I didn't know if there was a discontinuation in there where we maybe try to find a way to plan to make sure that it's continuous, but
Yeah,
if it's continuous on that side,
Yeah,
for
it's
the
on one
stretch
side
that
of
we're
the
dealing
street.
with, then,
It's not, again, it's not perfect.
yeah.
We're gonna have some increased communication with the homeowners in that area, since this is gonna be a bit more than we originally expected, especially if it's gonna deal with someone's
Sidewalk.
driveway and the sidewalk.
Wanted to get approval first before I started saying something to the
Sure.
homeowners.
Great, thank you.
Just gonna fix their problem.
Yeah, it might be inconvenient for a little while, but.
Okay,
That's it.
That's it. That's all there is. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Show adjourned.